Hello, I'm Sergeant Chris Bigland with the West Vancouver Police Department. Today I want to talk to you about an issue that affects thousands of Canadians every year: fraud. It's a crime that knows no boundaries and can impact anyone. My goal is to share some simple tips to help you protect yourself and your loved ones from becoming victims. Fraudsters use many tactics, by phone, email, online, and even in person. They rely on fear, urgency, and confusion to trick you into giving up your personal information or money. But with the right knowledge, you can stay one step ahead. The bottom line is that fraudsters will target vulnerabilities such as a concern for family or a desire to be law-abiding citizens. A little skepticism and the courage to make time to think can go a long way to avoiding becoming a victim. Here are some key tips to protect yourself from fraud, inspired by advice from the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. Develop a program, revisit it regularly. Engage supports available to you: financial institutions, friends, family, even the West Van Library. Do not be pressured into a decision or action. It's okay to be a skeptic and educate yourself. Tell someone, consult, be independent in your research. And lastly, you are not alone. Make sure your friends aren't either. And we'll talk a little bit more about these as we go through the presentation, but I just wanted to highlight a couple of key points for your awareness. So we're going to talk about some of the most common scams and methods of frauds that we see here in West Vancouver. And they are the grandparent scam, identity theft, email scams, telephone scams, and finally, romance scams. So let's start with the grandparent scam. And there are a lot of different ways that this can present itself. We have frequently seen in West Vancouver, this one tends to begin from a phone call, where a caller is falsely claiming to be a family member or to be a lawyer representing a family member, and stating that this family member has been arrested and needs bail money or money for lawyers' fees or what have you. We frequently see that payment is requested in gift cards, which is definitely a red flag. And we have even most disturbingly had some West Van files involving a suspect attending the victim's home in order to collect payment. This particular type of scam has been active a lot in West Vancouver in the calendar year 2024. So it is one that we want you to pay particular attention to. And again, the basic protection behavior that we suggest, being skeptical, doing your own independent research, is a good way of identifying that you may potentially being targeted by a fraudster and to prevent yourself from actually turning your money over to a criminal. I will say that in this specific situation, the police and lawyers do not call family members looking for bail money. It is not a common way of releasing a person who's accused of a crime from custody. We very, very, very rarely ever take money. And so if somebody is suggesting that you handing over money is going to release a loved one from custody, that is a major red flag. I would encourage you to end that interaction and not strike it up again, even if the caller persists. If you feel like you may be being targeted, again, hang up the phone and feel free to call the West Vancouver Police Department. Our non-emergency number, 604-925-7300, is monitored 24 hours a day. And we can put you in touch with a police officer who can help you talk through the scenario and make sure that you are safe, and also to calm any fears that you may have that you're actually letting a loved one down, which I'm confident you would not be in this case. These types of scams also may explain to you why, if you go to your local branch of your bank and are attempting to withdraw a few $1,000s, if maybe the bank teller is asking you a bunch of questions about why you're taking this money out, who it's for, and what the nature of the transaction is. I speak from personal experience on this one, having recently just taken some money out to purchase a vehicle, and I was quite caught off guard by being asked what the money was for and all that, which felt a bit intrusive. But that is the banks responding to victims of fraud attending the bank, withdrawing large sums of money, and then later being defrauded during the day, and specifically having taken the money out to facilitate the fraudulent transaction. And the banks have identified that their personal banking associates have an opportunity to prevent fraud by just simply asking a few questions. And then if they are hearing something that sounds suspicious to them, that they can maybe help out the person who's in the process of being defrauded. It's a great way to save a vulnerable person sometimes tens of thousands of dollars. The second type of a scam we'd like to talk about today is identity theft. And this can involve the theft of personal information such as credit card info, PIN numbers, your driver's license or social insurance number. It might be the theft of your mail. It could even be something that's taken out of your garbage or recycling. And this is the type of thing where one criminal offense leads to another. If you're someone who has personal collection of your garbage or recycling, we would absolutely encourage you to make sure that you are shredding any documents that might be related to your identity, prescriptions, bills for cell phones and utilities. Make sure that these have been destroyed prior to putting them in the recycling bin. If you are someone who lives in a neighborhood that has a Canada Post super box, and this is a community mailbox, so your mail is not delivered specifically to your home. It's delivered to a bank of mailboxes located somewhere on the street in the community. It could also be the mailbox in the lobby of your apartment building. If you hear that something has been stolen or the super box has been damaged or broken into, this is a good sign that if somebody doesn't tell you, you should absolutely be taking steps to protect your personal identity. Calling TransUnion or Equifax, which are credit agencies approved by the Canadian government, making them aware that you might be more vulnerable than normal to an identity theft. Next on our list is email scams. Some of these can be a little more obvious than others. If you are all of a sudden receiving emails from Elon Musk, that may be a fraudulent email. I know those are the ones that I'm getting. But some of these are a little more subtle and harder to detect. You may get an email asking you to do a survey for a company that you coincidentally do business with, maybe an airline that you purchase tickets from. And the email could be designed to look like it's coming from the legitimate company, but there may be a few giveaways that you can look for. Again, just being a little bit skeptical, you might be able to find some things that will lead you to believe that this is not actually coming from a reputable source. One of the things that you can do is check the actual email address that the email is coming from. So if I was emailing you from the police department or any of my colleagues were, you would see an email address that has first name, last name at wvpd.ca. WVPD obviously standing for West Vancouver Police Department, but the email address is clearly attached to the organization. If you were to get an email from Sergeant Chris Bigland, 7272 at hotmail.com, that is a good indication that you might be dealing with a fraudulent email scam type situation. Again, if you receive an email, even if it catches your eye and it's something that sounds appealing to you, anytime you're receiving unsolicited stuff, do take a second look at those details. Look for spelling errors, look for inappropriate grammar, these kinds of things, which are indicators of something that is more of a nefarious nature as opposed to legitimate communication from a legitimate business. We also encourage people not to click on links from suspicious emails that they receive. Clicking on these links can install malware, direct you to other websites, and defeat the security systems that are present in your computer, in your operating systems. We also encourage you not to provide credit card information if you do choose to interact with an unsolicited email. Be very suspicious about providing this, because once it's given, it can then be used repeatedly if the person receiving that info has a criminal or ill will intent. And again, I would be remiss if I didn't say that payment for most things by gift cards is not a legitimate way of doing business. Telephone or mobile device scams. This particular scam is almost more of a method of getting to you as opposed to the nature of the ruse that's being concocted. Some listening to this may have received phone calls or text messages from the Canada Revenue Agency advising them of warrants for their arrest due to unpaid taxes. That particular scam is a bit outdated, but it reflects the nature of what we see. It's very common these days to receive text messages from unknown sources that involve links to click or presenting you with a scenario that indicates that some sort of a service has been blocked, be it credit card, debit card, your mobile device, and click here, provide us with this information so that we can rectify the problem. Legitimate companies, service providers, financial institutions, your cell phone companies, they don't do business that way. They never ask you to provide your personal protected information to them via text, usually not even over the phone unless you're making the call. So again, when you receive a message from an unknown source, be it a text, be it a phone call, and very quickly you're being asked to provide your personal information, this is a great time for you to be a bit skeptical, end the interaction. If you are legitimately concerned that this may be coming from a company that you do business with, contact them directly with a phone number that you're aware is a legitimate phone number and ask them what is going on and what the nature of their inquiry is. Again, I'm perfectly confident that if somebody texts you purporting to be from your cell phone provider asking you for your personal info, if you do in fact call your cell phone provider, you will find that it is not them that is the source of that message. Romance scams. The romance scam can take place over an extended period of time, and this is a scenario where a fraudster creates a fake online persona and then connects with potential victims through forums, dating sites, any place where you meet up and converse with people online. Over time, trust is gained, and this can be done obviously through messaging. It can involve the exchange of videos, images. It might even involve phone calls. But ultimately, the one thing that's not going to happen is the victim is never going to meet the fraudster, and the true identity of the person is not known. Everything stays in the realm of this fake persona that's created in order to complete a scam. And what will happen is that all of a sudden, out of nowhere, some sort of urgent communication will come, either from the person that the victim is in a relationship with, or somebody claiming to be a friend. It'll be a scenario where all of a sudden that person is in urgent need of some money to buy an airplane to get out of country that's falling apart, or whatever fraudsters tend to come up with. And I'll loop back to the grandparent scam because there's a pretty significant overlap here where all of a sudden you have a communication indicating that somebody that you care about or have a relationship with is in dire need, and you're the only person that can provide them with money to solve all of their problems, which maybe sounds a bit glib, but when you strip away the nuances and all of the effort that the fraudster is putting into it, that's effectively what is occurring. Protective or behavior that you can protect yourself with is simply when somebody is all of a sudden asking you for money, be skeptical, end the interaction, give yourself some time, speak to a friend or a family member, call the West Vancouver Police Department. Whatever you need to do to kind of bounce that idea off somebody else, and just get a temperature check on how suspicious what is going on actually is. And lastly, I'd like to talk about technology, artificial intelligence, and a fraud that we saw in the Lower Mainland and obviously in West Vancouver towards the end of summer 2024. And this was just a basic email scam, but with a bit of added technology. It really made a lot of people feel exposed in the intrusion of a fraudster. And we're going to include an actual email that was shared by someone who received one. And you'll notice right off the top when you read the bolded first paragraph that the fraudster has included the person's actual phone number, their actual residential address, and this email is addressed to the person with their accurate first and last name. It obviously also references West Vancouver, which immediately gives the perception that this email is very specifically targeted to the potential victim. That is not the case. The phone number and all that has been added in, but the rest of the email is a generic, likely AI-generated script that is being sent to many, many different email addresses. And what we were seeing with this particular scam is that it would actually be very focused on a geographic area. So one day we would all of a sudden receive, one day in West Vancouver, we got about 30 reports of people calling in to say that they have received these emails. And the next day it would be over somewhere else, Port Moody, Coquitlam. It moved around the Lower Mainland and then disappeared off the radar for several months only to come back. But the success that fraudsters have is leveraging technology to create a new way of cutting through people's walls, through their skepticism, and straight to their vulnerabilities. And in this case, what caught people out was A, the unsolicited email, B, that it was addressed to them, that their phone number was available, that their address was on there, and as you'll see in the second slide, a photograph of the front of their home pulled off of Google Maps was included. And so what this does in the first instance of reading this email, it's very easy for a lot of people to feel like, holy smokes, this person knows who I am, they know where I live, and this is very targeted to me. The nature of the fraud in the scripted email indicates that the fraudster has taken over this person's home security system, has taken over their computer and their Wi-Fi network, and is aware of their internet browsing habits. In and of itself, that probably wouldn't catch most people, but when you include a photo of your car in the driveway, and then, oh, by the way, I've also taken over all of the technology in your house, it adds a layer that is going to definitely cause concern for a lot of people. But again, a second read of the email will show that the language is definitely a little bit off. It bounces in a very clunky way between formal and informal. Grammar and punctuation are not on point, and it definitely has an odd tone to it, which is something that is consistent with early AI efforts at sounding like an actual human being. So again, our basic protective behaviors of ending the interaction, taking a step back, reaching out to speak to somebody and explaining to them what you're faced with. These are great steps to prevent yourself from falling victim to this particular scam. Even a simple internet search of some of the details of this scam would have very quickly shown you that this type of thing is going on all over the country. It was featured on the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre website. There were multiple press releases by different police organizations in the Lower Mainland. A lot of information out there if you had the wherewithal to not respond to this email in the first instance. So some of the commonalities that we see with all frauds are odd payment methods. So this can be gift cards, it can be Bitcoin, it can be please go down to the bank and take out a significant amount of money and then wait at home for us to come and collect it. These are not ways that legitimate companies exchange services for money. And anytime somebody is suggesting we'll call it out-of-the-box method of resolving whatever the issue is, that should be a red flag for you. And again, give yourself permission to ask a few questions, either of the person you're dealing with, or preferably in the interaction, call a friend or a family member or somebody you trust, or call the police department and just bounce what's going on with you off of that person. Imperfect English, again, things that might sound a lot like AI. This is going to be different things for different people. We all have different commands of the English language. I'm sure that you could replay this recording, and there is plenty of imperfect English coming from my voice here. But they're all pieces that can cause you to have some sort of suspicion and feed your skeptical nature. Think of the stereotypical door-to-door salesperson who shows up in a cheap suit with, ketchup stains, and you're immediately going to be somewhat suspicious of that person. So, when you see an email or read a text or hear something and it just doesn't quite feel right, give yourself permission to indulge in that skepticism. It may prevent you from becoming the victim of a fraud. One of the key components to any fraud is going to be a sense of urgency, insistence on taking action in a very short time frame, and ultimatums or threats. I have been at calls with people who are in the process of being attempting to be defrauded, where I've intervened and taken the phone away from our potential victim, spoken to the fraudster. They can be rude, they can be persistent, and they will try and get you to do whatever it is they're asking right now. Don't talk to anybody. Don't put it down. You're going to miss out on the opportunity. Life will be over. This amazing thing that you might get is going to be gone. All these types of things. And they can be very persuasive, which is why I encourage you again, if you are feeling rushed, if you are feeling boxed into a corner, if you are skeptical, just hang up. Just hang up and walk away. Speak to somebody that you trust, and that can defeat all of the pressure that's being put on you by a fraudster. And lastly, and as we kind of talked about with our most recent AI type scam, they will present as much information as they can to you to make it appear that they know who you are and have in-depth knowledge of your personal information, your personal business. And this is a very, very difficult thing to be resilient to, but understand that it's a common occurrence with fraudsters. Again, legitimate businesses generally don't feel the need to prove to you that they know who you are. They already have a pre-existing relationship. There are ways of confirming your identity that you should be aware of from all the legitimate transactions that you've done. So anytime you feel like you're being pushed out of what you normally do with whatever companies you deal with, stop the interaction, find a way of independently verifying who you're dealing with and whether this is actually a legitimate business. How to protect yourself. Know the privacy settings on Chrome, Safari, or whatever internet browser you're using. Regularly check your passwords. Regularly check your security settings. Think about them. Make sure that they meet your satisfaction. For example, are you comfortable with a particular app using the location services on your mobile device? This type of a service can be very convenient and have a lot of value for some people, but it can also be an unnecessary intrusion. And if you are going to invite technology in your life, we encourage you to know how to make it work for you, and also to know the ways that it may not be working for you, the ways that it may be making you vulnerable, and using the technology or the options to shut down things that may have access to your private information if you're not interested in it. And I'll give another plug to the West Van Library. The tech desk here can help you explain some of that stuff. You can also go to your mobile service provider. Really, the message here is know what technology you're using, understand how it gives you access to the world, understand how it gives the world access to you, and make sure that you're making a security, safety decision that is informed and is appropriate to your level of comfort. Never tell a person your PIN or your account passwords. This is one surefire way to turn a fraud into something that becomes your fault. I have investigated many frauds for credit cards and with other banking institutions where the victim of the fraud has been made whole by the bank or the credit card company without too much hassle, and sometimes for significant sums of money. If the victim has shared their password or their PIN, that's not going to happen. If you give away your PIN or your password to someone and your account ends up getting defrauded, you are likely going to be on the hook for that loss. So please do not share your PIN or your passwords. If you are participating in online banking, which many of us are, do engage your bank and find out what their specific security protocol is and how you can work best in sync with them to keep yourself safe and keep your money safe from fraudsters. Each institution is going to have its own angle of doing things. And again, just make yourself aware of how the technology that you're using wants to keep your information and your money safe. Stay away from pop-up windows and responding to unsolicited emails. Really think twice about opening attachments or going to website links that are sent to you by people you do not know. Key point of emphasis: your bank or credit union will not send you anything by email unless you ask them to. Your service providers are not going to text you and ask you to confirm your personal information. That's not the way they do business. Be wary of online surveys. Enough said. Never give your credit card, bank account, or personal information to someone over the phone, at the door, over the internet, via text message, unless you know the person or the organization that you are dealing with. Especially important is if you are not the person that's initiated the contact or initiated this interaction. Obviously, if you've called somebody up and you're looking to give them your money, you're in a much safer spot than if you were just going about your day and all of a sudden you're now purchasing something that 5 minutes ago you weren't planning on doing. Do not sign an agreement or contract to buy anything without giving yourself time to think it over. This can apply even to online purchases through various online marketplaces and stuff like that. Be suspicious of emails awarding prizes or gifts from surveys. Is it really coming from the company that you think, or is it coming from some third party who may have a very loose relationship with sharing your personal information broadly once you've given it to them? Bottom line, when in doubt, end the interaction. Talk to someone you trust, and yes, that can be the West Vancouver Police Department. These things are never as urgent as they are being made out to be. And conversely, you're listening to this today, you're clearly invested in educating yourself on scams. Not everybody's going to have the same approach. Fraudsters are always going to try and isolate people and take advantage of their vulnerabilities. So let's not isolate ourselves. Let's not let others be isolated. You've taken the time today to educate yourself about how to protect yourself from fraud. If you know someone who might be vulnerable to these things or is sharing stories with you, take a moment to educate them, direct them to this recording or to some of the resources that I'm about to talk about. Resources for more information that you can consider checking out online: the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre, which is hosted by the Government of Canada, particularly their A to Z Scam Index. They also index their scams by method. Is a great way to, if you're concerned about something that's going on or that you've heard about, you can go in and they can explain what that fraud is and how it's playing out. You can use the West Vancouver Police Department website, your service provider's website, being the bank, mobile devices, utility providers. The West Vancouver Library Tech Desk has a lot of resources and people who are waiting to help you out with this as well. If you think you've been targeted by fraud, don't panic. You may contact the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre at 1-888-495-8501 and report it. And this is if you think that you've been targeted for fraud but not lost money. You can also reach out to us at the West Vancouver Police Department for guidance. Our non-emergency number is 604-925-7300. And regardless of whether you have fallen victim and lost money, or you just want to talk to us about something suspicious, we are waiting to help you. Reporting helps us track these crimes and prevent others from falling victim. As I mentioned briefly earlier in the talk, the newest fraud is the most dangerous fraud. Once we can make people aware of frauds that are occurring, the details of them, that knowledge prevents new victims from happening. Fraud prevention starts with awareness. Safety starts with community. Please share these tips with your friends and family, and together we can stop fraudsters in their tracks. Thank you for listening.
This presentation was brought to you by the West Vancouver Memorial Library in partnership with the West Vancouver Police Department. For more resources, classes, and advice about digital literacy and online security, please visit the West Vancouver Memorial Library's Community Computing Center, or visit our website, westvanlibrary.ca, and explore our technology events, including our online privacy and security programs. These are programs designed to empower you to keep yourself safe online. Thank you for watching.